For the best experience, please use headphones. Calling all adventurers. I repeat, calling all adventurers. We found another broadcast that we think is worth checking out. Twigs and Hearts is a surreal horror audio drama written by Cry MJ that follows Iris and Zenith, two neurodivergent campers, as they battle with existentialism, elements of Western folklore, and unstable woodlands, all while hunting for their friend who is in possession of a mysterious ritual book. Take a listen.
There are 3 rules for venturing outside of Camp Green known by all members. 1. No leaving camp alone. 2. At least one person remains at camp and they must know you're leaving. And finally, rule number 3.
You can't outrun the deer. Don't try.
I can't believe you talked me into this.
Saving a friend.
Hello? Can anybody hear me? Zenith? Iris? Anyone?
Do you wait for death? She is kind and patient and inevitable. She does not own a domain, for she is our door between them. Do you fear death? Or do you fear life before? Nothing to give, or hold, or talk about but the body that decays while you wake. She smiles with open palms. Death welcomes us with open arms, and I invite her.
It's a book called Twigs and Hearts. I thought you might find it interesting.
Where is Twigs and Hearts?
Where are you hiding, Twigs and Hearts?
Twigs and Hearts is a bi-monthly horror podcast available now.
This show is about some key themes that resonate with us: found family, identity, and challenging what defines living and human. If you are searching for a show that blurs reality, Twigs and Hearts mixes new and old to give horror an unsettling tweak. You can find them on twigsandhearts.card.co and major podcast host platforms. Right, onto the show. Just some news before we get to the story today. Hedge fund acquires majority of homes in Larkspur. In a stunning upset, Squeak and Burrow Investments, a hedge fund operated by a syndicate of unusually sophisticated rats, have outbid Blackmark Capital to purchase most of the town of Larkspur's housing stock. With a portfolio that originally held only the Crumbling Crust Bakery, the rodents have expanded in a bid to keep rents affordable and homes in good repair. They have also successfully introduced a community cheese night. One tenant states, "I never thought I'd say this, but I'd rather rent from an actual rat than the usual landlords." I'm glad they're doing well. But let's turn our focus away from that and back to our regularly scheduled story. The buildings along the city streets turned from white stone to grey stone to brown wood as we moved further into the dock district. The clatter of cartwheels against cobblestone intensified. The soft birdsong and the faint music from high-end establishments turned to the lively bustle of tavern patrons and warehouse workers. We passed numerous businesses on our way to the waterfront. The guard presence we'd seen throughout the city notably dwindled the lower we went, yet the place was not lawless. People performed their daily duties without concern. There was something missing alongside the guards. Something a part of me had noticed, but hadn't formed into a full thought yet. It was clearly still a working-class part of the city. Derelict houses picked clean for parts used to repair the homes around them. There was no real marker that funds from the greater city were coming in, but community action had been implemented to pick up the slack. Our walk came to an end in a small circular junction planted before the promenade.
All right. Where do we start?
I couldn't rightly say. I don't want to walk up to someone and ask about the Dark Sun.
I doubt we'd get a straight answer.
Well, where are we going to get information then? Val pointed to a nearby building. High roof, double doors, shuttered windows, and a swinging sign.
In no place are lips looser than the local watering holes. Want information? You go where drinks lower inhibitions.
I gestured for Val to lead the way, and she led us to a tavern by the name of The Ward. Several steps led down to a doorway positioned under a swinging sign bearing a magic rune I didn't recognize. We entered the dimly lit but warmly decorated barroom. There were several tables scattered across the rough wooden flooring. Moving further inside, we passed an inordinately well-dressed man with dark hair and glasses who was leaving. I guess the place was popular enough to cater folks from all walks. An older woman with grey hair behind the counter leant over the bar top and beckoned us in.
Come on in, come on in. Gosh, look at the size of you. You looking to fight?
Excuse me? She nodded to a section of the room without tables. A large circle had been cut out of the floorboards and packed densely with sand. I knew its purpose, as I'd seen one before, in the barn outside my village. It was a boxing ring. I glanced at Val, who looked unimpressed that I had even considered it. Maybe next time. Just in for a drink or two today.
Mrs. says no roughhousing, huh? Fair enough. What can I get you instead?
I'll spare you a lot of the boring details here as our visit quickly fell into a rhythm. We took a seat, ordered some drinks, and an hour passed. Ordered more drinks and another hour passed. Ordered more drinks to top the hour after that. All the while we sat, made small talk, and listened to our surroundings. On several occasions we considered leaving and trying somewhere else. Then we'd hear a whisper. A line or two from hushed conversations mentioning benefactors, gangs, protection, or the state of the district. Hour by hour the day flew past us. We were running out of time and hadn't heard anything substantial. Not to mention, all we'd had was wine after wine and beer after beer. We were starting to get tipsy in the uneventfulness.
We'll have to leave soon. If we stick around, we're gonna get too drunk and we're gonna miss the thing.
I know. It wasn't imperative that we learn much today, but it would have been nice to.
Tell me how you're finding it.
It's unlike anywhere I've lived before. I can tell you that.
A human and a sprite took the table next to ours, shutting our conversation down in one fell swoop. Val pressed the rim of her glass to her lips, pretending to drink while turning her ear toward the louder conversation.
It's not bad, right? People look after each other around here. It reminded me of my village. It's what convinced me to stick around.
And it's safe here, right? Despite the people who run it?
It's safe because of the people who run it. You won't get shaken down by guards here just because you're small. Well, not you, but you get my meaning. There are only 2 rules here. Don't make trouble and pay the tax man. Keep those in mind and you've nothing to worry about.
But they're, a gang.
And the city guard isn't? Just because they wear a fancy uniform doesn't mean they care any more than any other thugs. At least these guys stay out of our business, and they'll be there when you leave a candle on your windowsill.
And what if you break the rules?
Don't.
But if you do?
If you do, they'll send someone to talk to you first. They're not the type to break kneecaps just because you miss a payment every now and again. I don't know who runs the bunch, but the fella knows what having financial difficulties is like.
I thought someone would come talk to me when I moved here.
If you've got any problems, just ask someone. Like I said, we all look out for each other around here.
Val checked her pocket watch and shot me a look. We were late, and we'd heard enough. As we settled our tab and walked out, I finally realized what was missing from the district. It was the homeless population. The street corners and alleyways and the docks weren't lined with the unfortunate panhandlers we saw elsewhere. The gang were acting as the de facto governing body and peacekeepers of the district. I wasn't entirely sure how that worked or why the actual government was allowing it. The sprite mentioned the taxman, so I thought that maybe if they kept kicking up like they were supposed to, the king and council didn't actually care who ran the town. At the very least, the Dark Sun appeared to be doing a better job than the Rosefists. I couldn't see the senseless violence, oppression, or overabundance of harmful criminal activities I'd heard the Rosefists were engaged in. Perhaps this sinner of theirs was a bit more trustworthy than the average thug. But I didn't like that I didn't, and likely wouldn't ever, know much about him. After a walk lost in deep thought, we arrived back at Morn's tailor shop and stepped inside. There was a large case standing on its end as tall as a person. Next to it, sat in a chair clutching her head in her hands, was Morn. She looked exhausted.
Hello. Are you okay?
Ah, you're back. Right on time. The outfits are yours, but please don't walk through the streets in them. Take them, get ready, and take a carriage to the Cotillion.
The streets weren't caked in mud, so I didn't know why she wanted us to be so careful, but we obliged nonetheless. I slung the case onto my shoulder, thanked her, paid for the goods, and returned to the hideout to find Harrington waiting for us in a carriage outside. The setting sun cast orange light in streaks through gaps between the buildings.
Good evening. Give us 10 minutes and we'll be out.
Harrington nodded through the window, and we entered the shop to quickly change. Releasing the catches on the large leather travel chest, it split wide, revealing my outfit tucked into the left and Val's to the right. Morn had clearly taken our requests to heart during the creation process. She had also taken some real liberties too. There were no frills or ruffles, to be sure. The entire striking ensemble was crafted from silky white fabric with gold embroidery, trousers, waistcoat, and matching high-collared coat. The shirt was black, adding a splash of depth to the center that broke up the white. It was tailored to perfection, designed to sit against the body with sharp edges that slimmed my bulky frame. It even had white boots, which now explained why Morn didn't want me wearing it in the streets. For Val, Morn had moved in a similar direction but opted for darker shades. Made of the same fabric but in deep blue, she had a knee-length overcoat that hugged her slim frame and flowed down from the waist. The leaf patterns decorating her long sleeves, hem, and high collar were a sharp silver that paid homage to her elven heritage. The set possessed matching trousers and black boots. Val had fought Morn on the topic of wearing a dress of some kind. I'd never known her to be overtly feminine, so I was pleased that she got what she wanted. After donning our evening attire, Val ran wax through my hair to slick it back and gave me a few spritzes of her perfume just before we departed for the carriage.
You two look splendid.
Harrington knocked his cane against the wall behind him to signal the driver, and the carriage started moving.
Stop fussing.
Why can't I unbutton my collar again? I feel like it's strangling me.
Because it's improper. Why do you always have such a problem with it? I've never seen you with your collar done up.
I don't like things pressing against my neck. Sue me.
Oh, stars. If we get there and someone else has an open collar, you can open yours. But let's try and get through the front door first.
You'll do fine. There's a good chance that people will already be drunk when we get there, so I wouldn't worry too much about keeping up appearances for long.
Drunk nobles. Always fun? What else can we expect from this fair kingdom's high society?
As I stated yesterday, you can expect the worst. I'm aware that you've likely been to similar affairs in Numidia back before, well, it shan't be as tame as those. Elves possess a modesty that forever eludes our human-dominated culture.
Aren't nobles supposed to be fancy and, what's the word? Sanctimonious?
Priggishness does not beget nobility.
What?
You may be surprised to learn that nobles are not some elevated intellectuals. More often than not, they're spoilt progeny of opportunistic scoundrels like me, or they are themselves the opportunistic scoundrels. They are all victim to the very same deplorable vices they publicly condemn.
I'm not surprised.
That said, you may be lucky enough to avoid some of the more unsavory nonsense if we stick to the main halls. Once we're in, we should mingle for a bit, then locate a member of the Rosefists and watch them. Find out who they talk to and what they say. It may open up some leads. If the opportunity comes to talk with one of them, it may be good to do so. But stay guarded.
Slowly, the carriage rolled up the city streets to the palace. We passed crowds of people celebrating the holiday that accompanied the Cotillion. Market stalls, carnival games, street performers, and more. All stuff I would much rather look at than this soiree of sin we trundled toward. The hum of celebration was alive and well, even down there. I saw the palace from the window of the carriage. It was truly a sight to behold. White towers gleaming gold in the gaslight, spires crowned with banners that rippled lazily in the nighttime breeze. The whole place seemed alive. Every window was aglow, forming a constellation of light, perched atop the dark ridge overlooking the bustling streets below. Maybe I was being a spoilsport, but there was only one way to measure the mood I was in. There's only so many beggars you can pass on your way to the royal palace before it turns you bitter. The carriage drove by a large wooden sign painted red. I scanned the white letters emblazoned across it. Val saw it too and read aloud.
Fireworks ahead.
Yeah, I sure hope it does. Val's eyes swept toward me and then back through the window. The carriage rolled to a stop at the palace gates, where lamplight reflected off the large gilded bars separating the king from the rabble. The guards were dressed in immaculate armor, flexible and practical, but robust and high quality. They were custom fitted to each guard with the same precision as our own evening attire. One stepped forward and raised a hand, causing the driver to rein in the horses and gesture to the carriage. A clerk in a tailored jacket and breeches approached. Harrington released the catch, slid down the glass separator, and handed over the letter I assumed to be the invitation, alongside identification papers. The clerk wordlessly inspected them for a moment, ticked something in a ledger, then wrote something next to it before handing back the letter and papers. He took a step back and nodded at the driver to proceed.
That's the easy part done.
Val nervously rubbed her left wrist. An unusual behavior for her, but I didn't question it. The gates swung open with a gentle rattle, and the carriage lurched forward. The path up to the palace proper wound through manicured gardens lit by silver lanterns. Fountains whispered beside the path, and statues emerged from the dark, clean and proud in greeting. Are we there yet?
Don't you start. Oh, and by the way, I handed over the report to close out the Leaf Strider incident. Officially, Machina is a missing person, and only we and her know otherwise. Let's keep it that way. Otherwise, Danton Marshstone is dead. Although I reported everything else we discovered, there's a very good chance they will simply pin this whole thing on him.
And what does that mean for him?
Not much, as he is dead. But they'll likely sell his house and use the money to pay Fenrir Leafstrider's damages. It's good we got there first to secure the book.
First we failed to save Danton, and then I learned what would befall his reputation to the public. Eventually, we would be able to tell his story true and make up for it. But there would be many years where he would simply be known as a madman who blew up a cafe for no discernible reason. That was hard to accept. When at last the carriage stopped at the grand steps, my heart began to climb up my throat. I couldn't believe I was nervous too. I truly didn't care about this place or its people, but I knew that a lot was riding on that evening being a success. And being perceived is often troublesome anyway. This was something more, as it was now by people I knew were judging every word I spoke or step I took. A line of attendants were already waiting. One opened the door, bowing low as Harrington stepped out, followed by Val, finishing with me. The carriage squeaked and raised up a few extra inches once I was free of it. I yanked on the hem of my waistcoat to straighten it out and ran my fingers along the inside of my collar, buying myself an unhindered breath of warm, perfumed evening air. Before we could move any further, a guard in armor somehow more ceremonial than the previous stepped forward, her hand resting lightly on a crystal-tipped brass rod.
Hold still, please.
A faint shimmer passed over Harrington as the rod traced the air around his torso and limbs. The guard nodded and moved to Valuin to do the same. As it crested over Val's chest, the crystal flickered brighter for a moment.
I'm detecting a magic wellspring. Apologies, madam. Upon request of the king, you'll need to don a suppressor for the evening.
A magic wellspring? The internal source of a mage's power? Val made that familiar movement of beginning to roll her eyes, but caught herself halfway through the action and swiftly presented her left arm to the guard. The same wrist she'd been nervously rubbing earlier. She must have been dreading losing her powers, even if it was just for a short time. I hadn't considered it before, but without her magic, Val was an ordinary elf. She was still fiercely intelligent and cunning, but relatively normal. I thought it must have felt helpless, like some element of control and agency was being removed. A feeling I wasn't terribly used to, as they likely had no device to wrest my strength from me. The guard strapped an ornate leather band with an embedded jewel to her raised wrist. The two ends of it connected, but left no seam or release. After inspecting the device, she quickly covered it back up with her sleeve, and the guard scanned her again. There was no flickering light that time, but Val seemed as though she'd lost the pep in her step. The guard nodded, sidestepped toward me, and I began to panic. What if I accidentally packed all of my weapons? What if a blade fell into my boot and I didn't notice? Or, worst of all, what if that rod picked up the black dog? My steel mask hung from a fabric loop inside my coat. Would that flag up any issues? A faint shimmer passed over me as she traced my body, its light washing over my skin and reflecting off my shiny attire. The spell felt like a cool mist against my senses, briefly searching me. And then it flashed. Oh shit. She detected the dog. I was so fucked. I couldn't remove it while I was still alive, and they might arrest me for even trying to get it inside. How would I talk my way out of that?
I'm detecting a magic wellspring in you too, sir.
What?
My apologies, but upon request of the king, you'll also need to don a suppressor for the evening.
I stood awestruck for a moment, confused, bewildered, and other synonyms. I turned my head to spy Val's wide-eyed expression. This was likely as much a surprise to her as it was to me. But then again, was it a surprise? I held out my left arm for the band, and she began searching for one big enough for my wrist. Some strange things had been occurring of late, but I hadn't had time to think on them. Back in the Shallowlands, I had moved so fast that space had distorted in front of me. In Solemn, I had taken a lightning bolt to the chest that would have cooked anyone else. Did I have magic that I didn't know about? How could that even be possible? Then my mind flicked to the one thing I hadn't accounted for. The towering unknown. My father. A band was fitted to my wrist in the same manner as Val. In the span of an exhale, I felt heavier and a bit sluggish. The sheer weight of my own body had been made abruptly apparent to me. Perhaps they could take my strength from me. The guard scanned me again, now without incident, and nodded one last time, satisfied. The dog and the mask had both gone unnoticed.
You're clear and may proceed. The king thanks you for your patience and understanding. On behalf of His Majesty, enjoy your evening.
I inclined my head, forcing a smile, and walked past her onto a long red runner leading up to a wide staircase before me. Let's get on with this. A quick job has come up. We've got a request here from the hamlets of the plains north of Sistia. Wanted, Wickford Crossroad Killer. A ruthless killer has struck 9 times at Wickford Crossroads. Both innocents and adventurers alike have been found cut down in that area, and attempts to catch the individual have proven fruitless. Whoever takes this job, you'll have to pass through the crossroads as a normal traveller and confront this assailant alone, as they don't attack groups. A reward has been posted by families along with a kill condition. The individual must be defeated in a fair duel, but the killing blow must be dealt there and then. The families have no wish for a trial or jail time. Well, that is their right. If anyone is interested, head to Wickford Crossroads. Best of luck. I could tell the cotillion was in full swing as we approached. My boots made no sound as I climbed, the hem of my coat brushing the edge of each step, the evening air cooling the slight sweat forming on my brow. I flexed a bicep and felt the fabric of my coat strain under the pressure. Had I pushed further, I knew it would have torn, so I still had strength, just not all of it. Are you okay? Musicians played somewhere above. The sound was carried to the door alongside soft murmuring of conversation and clinking glasses. I focused on the black dog in my wrist, teetering on the edge of summoning it. Much like the strength, I felt if I pushed any further, it wouldn't manifest properly either.
For the most part. I deeply despise these suppression bans. Surprised you needed one.
The grand front doors were already open when we reached the top landing, carved from dark wood banded with gold. Warm light spilled out into the night, bathing the guests ahead of us in a gilded glow. Yeah, feeling a bit heavy. And I don't think I can summon the dog, but that's about it. Does yours hurt? The entrance hallway welcomed us inside, like the nave of a temple, long, tall, and gleaming with excess. The floor was a river of polished marble flourishing with gold veins, sparkling from the gentle light from chandeliers hanging overhead.
Not in the traditional sense, I just feel naked without my power. I'm not in any pain, but I feel a bit violated and empty.
Each chandelier was heavy with crystals and gaslight, casting prisms of light over the hallway. Walls decorated with portraits of past rulers framed in gold. Alcoves holding marble busts and tall mirrors that reflected everything twice over made the space feel endless. I'm sorry.
It's fine, we'll live. It's a small comfort that you are apparently unhindered.
At the end of the corridor, there was another open doorway. This one was framed by 2 ornate gold doors carved with reliefs of flowering vines and winged figures. Beyond them, I could hear the ballroom alive and in full splendor, with swelling music punctuated by sharp laughter. A small line of guests waited ahead of me, each standing far apart from one another. Courtiers adjusted cuffs and jewelry, fans fluttered, and polite conversation drifted amongst them.
Presenting Sir Cauldron Thornhelm, Knight-Errant of the Duchy of Legalia, victor of the Duel of Mistvale, alongside the Honourable Lady Maurice, patroness of the Arcane Choir.
2 figures stepped forward, one of which was a man with olive skin donning shining silver armour decorated with red roses and curling thorns. I hadn't considered armour to be allowed while weapons were not. Next to the man was a woman wearing a red ball gown that complemented the roses on her partner's chestplate and pauldrons. They descended the steps beyond the Herald and disappeared into a crowd of people so varying in dress and presentation that they no longer stood out. The line moved up.
Presenting Lady Sorel Vaunt, Archivist of Lost Languages and founder of the Order of the Silent Quill, and her retinue.
The lady bowed without a word, as if proving her order's name, flicked open her elaborate feathered fan, and 2 disappeared into the swaying masses alongside her company. They were apparently too unknown to merit announcement. The line moved again. We were up.
Presenting Sir Harrington Mulbrand, Lord Paramount of Vigil's End, alongside Uluf Valuin Seralith Fealora Emmaris, scion of House Emmaris, last of the Silverwood line, and wielder of the Blade of Dawn.
Fancy titles. You wield a sword?
No, I lost that thing years ago.
And company.
Ah, I also wasn't worth a formal announcement. I guess I shouldn't have been surprised. I wanted to feel slighted, but I couldn't. I truly was a nobody, and perhaps it was for the best. I didn't want to attract any attention, and I likely wouldn't in a place like that. We descended the stairs as a group. Harrington gestured toward a free table over in an alcove, which we began walking toward. Val looked around, tapped my shoulder, and covertly pointed to an older man in a dark blue doublet decorated with a gold epaulette on one shoulder and a deep red shawl cloak on the other.
Oh, look, over there. That's Sir Peldon Mar. He's a court duelist emeritus.
He enters duels professionally.
Mostly to settle disputes and perform at ceremonies. Been retired for years now, but he was one of the best. He and Bartholomew Guite came up together.
Fascinating. That's quite the career. The words came out, but I felt sorry for the guy. Perhaps he was happy, but he had the sad look of a wild animal held in a cage for too long.
Indeed. Beware the old man, so they say. Oh, over there. That's Moll. He's an orc from Eastern Evith.
What does he do?
He's a wit.
A what?
No, a wit. In essence, he deals in clever observations, wordplay, and repartee.
That's his job.
More of a social role, really.
Breaking through the crowd, we reached the table. A waiter carrying a selection of flute glasses half filled with indiscernible bubbling liquid stopped, lowered his tray, and we each took one. I sniffed it. Yeasty, floral notes with citrus. What manner of alchemical nightmare is this?
It's called Kelvain.
Actually, it's only called Kelvain if it's from the region of Kelvain. We're supposed to call it sparkling wine.
Why is it bubbling?
The secondary fermentation process. Don't worry, it's harmless. Unless you drink a lot of it. It goes very well with the juice of a freshly squeezed orange.
Right, let us focus. We all know our plays.
Harrington retrieved a timepiece from his waistcoat pocket via a gold chain.
I have only a few moments here.
We know what we're doing. Fear not, we'll keep a low profile while we search. Hopefully this will be a shenanigan-free evening.
Where are you going, Harry? Before he could answer, a dwarf with a heavily jewelled beard stepped in from the crowd to join us at the table.
Mulbrand, I'm most pleased to see you. Have you given any thought to the offer I made for your land and titles?
Margrave Stonehammer. I have given it careful consideration, but I'm afraid that
Well, let's save the business chat for later. First, you must come along now and meet some of my friends. We have so much to catch up on.
The dwarf took Harrington by the arm and began pulling him into the crowd.
I shall catch up with you both later. Best of luck.
And with that, he was gone. Val took a deep breath, swirled the drink around in the glass and took a sip.
Are you ready to mingle?
No, but let's do it anyway. The ballroom was vast yet intimate in its design, with high vaulted ceilings painted white with soft gold accents. The walls were not as well decorated as the hallways, but were far from empty with the intricate patterns carved into the alabaster brickwork. We turned away from the table, and I tasted a sip of the bubbling liquid from my glass. Ew.
Not a fan?
It tastes like old coins, like bitter chemicals.
Why do you know what coins taste like?
A childhood memory of accidentally swallowing a copper piece flooded my mind. That's not relevant.
Kinda seems like it is.
Where are we going?
To mingle. Look around and listen. Let's see if we learn anything interesting.
We strolled through the crowds at a gentle pace, eavesdropping on anyone we neared. To my left, a cluster of courtiers laughed too loudly at some biting remark. I like gossip as much as anyone, but this place felt like it was built on it and fueled by it. If there wasn't a salacious rumour to spread or a dirty deal to be made, would anyone even show up? Did no one enjoy a shindig for the love of community anymore?
Look over there, the Cambion with the purple skin and dark horns. She's the Minister of Health on the High Council and is responsible for a handful of free clinics getting set up across the city. Stars. I can't remember her name right now.
I spied the individual Val had nodded to. She was standing in a crowd who all seemed to be talking to her at once. She stared wistfully into the middle distance, completely unengaged and perhaps dreaming of being elsewhere. I related to that. I wondered how the king could even enjoy this, but I didn't suppose he had much else going on. I scanned the sea of faces and gala masks around me to see if the king was there that night, but I couldn't have picked him out from the crowd even if he was. I stopped looking for him and began studying everyone else.
Oh, see the older human with the beard and the long coat? That's Lord Rumen de Seer. He's the Minister of Trade on the council. Frightfully good with numbers. He does business better than we can breathe.
That's one hell of a mustache.
Isn't it just?
Val stepped between two people through a gap that quickly closed, separating us. I tried to find a way around while observing my surroundings. Near one of the marble columns, a pair of diplomats argued in hushed tones about trade routes and tariffs, their smiles fixed, but false. Everywhere I turned, there was motion and performance. Servants glided between guests with trays, poets recited verses to admiring listeners, officers boasted of minor victories. I watched a 30-something human with a goatee and slicked-back brown hair raise his hand and snap his fingers to signal a waiter. It was hard to listen to it all, and I was struggling to pick out any single conversation for long before I lost it again. But Val appeared to be having an easier time of it, as she flitted between groups with an inconspicuous nonchalance that made me question if she was actually getting anything from them. Trying to slip through a narrow gap between two guests, I passed the goateed man as he raised his hand to snap at the waiter once more. That sound rattled through my brain. I couldn't hold it in. Excuse me, apologies. I just wanted to step in to tell you that if you snap your fingers at a waiter again, I'm going to snap them off your hands.
What in the world? Who do you think you're talking to?
Clearly a thug and a bully.
That's rich coming from you.
Fuck you.
Why, you are most uncouth. I'd ask who you are, but clearly we travel in different circles.
The only circle you travel in is swirling down the toilet, you fuck.
Okay, I think it's time for us to go.
Val reappeared, looped her arm around mine, and dragged me away from the brewing argument. She didn't stop marching until we'd reached the edge of the room once more. She pushed me up against a wall by the glass doors leading out onto a balcony and draped a curtain over me.
Wait here. No talking.
I stood there for a few moments, wondering why in the world I was being treated in such a way. Then I heard the jackboots.
Excuse me, madam. Your companion has been causing trouble this evening. Where is he?
I've told him to go cool off somewhere out of my sight, but I take full responsibility for his actions. He may be my bodyguard, but he's also a silly farm boy who forgets his place. Rest assured, I've been sure to tell him that if he can't behave, he can't be here. You have my word, I've already resolved it.
Okay. Consider this a warning. Any more trouble, and you will both be escorted out.
Thank you for your understanding. I hope you both have a lovely and relaxed rest of your evening.
The sound of boots began to trail off. That was embarrassing. I wasn't being much help in the investigation. I needed to get myself together. Val pulled the curtain away and stood with her hands on her hips, head tilted to the side, frown etched onto her brow.
What was that?
He was snapping his fingers at waitstaff.
It's common.
It's gross.
It doesn't matter. You're going to be seeing a lot of that, but you need to lock it down. You promised.
What? So I'm supposed to just...
Yes.
Even when they're...
Yes.
Fine.
Please understand that I agree with your outrage, but this is how things are up here. You're tall and you've got that sour, bloody expression on all the time. You are going to frighten someone if you are not careful. If that happens, this investigation could be over before it starts. This is all a big game to them, and if you want to win it, you have to play it.
All right, I'll be good.
Thank you. Now, I think we'll cover more ground if we split up. You seem to be struggling in the ballroom, so take the halls and the back rooms. They'll be a bit quieter.
Okay. Find me in the back halls if you learn anything.
Go team!
Val and I parted and began walking in opposite directions. I quickly found a hallway leading out of the room and began moving away from the noise. I searched the resplendent corridors, listened to hushed conversations, and observed guests from afar. I wondered how far out of my league I was when nothing was turning up. This wasn't the type of investigating I found easy. I was about to give up when I saw a cluster of guests gathered near two individuals conversing by a window. The group fanned themselves and chatted in hushed tones while constantly looking over to the other two a few feet away. There was an old half-elf who had to be quite old to be visibly showing age like he was. Bald, clean-shaven face etched with deep wrinkles and gaunt cheeks that pushed his eyes into upward curves. Even when his grin faded during parts of the conversation, the eyes always looked as though he was smiling. He was dressed in fine robes that flowed off of him like waterfalls of white and gold. I knew who he was thanks to his presence on the front of a newspaper I'd read about 4 years prior. The main man himself, figurehead of one of the wealthiest institutions in the Western lands, your humble prophet of profit, selling salvation at a discounted rate, minister of religion and high priest of the Ilarian Church, Aard Kier. I'll be honest, he looked like shit. I thought he might die at any moment, snapped in half from a harsh breeze or collapsing under the weight of imagining something too big. I didn't feel bad silently mocking him. From what I'd heard, he was not a good man. I'm sure I don't need to remind any listeners about the sort of things the church gets up to. The man standing beside him was of interest to me, as my instincts flared when I looked at him. A human in his late 50s with cropped greying hair and a sharp-featured face. He donned a fitted yet subdued all-black outfit that clung to his wiry frame, yet he stood with an unmistakable air of authority. He also looked as though his face was set in a scowl, like cracking a smile would literally break something. Yet his voice dripped with honey. An odd juxtaposition. He would have to be someone important to justify holding a council member's attention like that. I wandered over to within earshot, inconspicuous-like, leaning up on a nearby windowsill. I took a few deep breaths of cool, perfume-free air. I listened to their conversation as I gazed out over the grounds. A carriage pulled up near one of the palace's side entrances, and 5 humans stepped out in full waitstaff gear. Must have been time for a shift change.
And what would you need from me, Zaddicus?
That was the name of the Rosefist patriarch.
All I wish is for you to consider me a friend in the times to come.
Do you really think such change is on the horizon?
Much can happen in 5 minutes, Your Grace, and these are unprecedented times.
Were they?
Very well. I accept your gift, and you may consider us friends. But let us dispense with talk of business and enjoy the evening.
As you wish, Your Grace.
High Priest Kier bowed with wide arms, and then departed into the main hall while Zaddicus reached for the timepiece tucked away in his pocket. I had a chance. I turned to attempt to greet him, but in the time it took to spin on my heels, he had already been swarmed by droves of lingering party guests. They each tried to ask him a question, yet he raised his hands to quell them.
Ladies and gentlemen, please, I would like nothing more than to spend time chatting with you all, but I must depart. It is quite past my bedtime.
Together they all curtsied or bowed and began moving away, allowing him space to begin walking down the hallway. I had another chance, but I had to get his attention, so I took several staggered steps to intercept. There was no sense in being coy. I just needed to keep his focus until Val found us. She would know how to probe him properly. I stumbled over my own feet and crashed into him, spilling my drink, a splash of which landed on his shirt sleeve as he tried to avoid it.
I'm so sorry, old chap. I do apologize.
I stepped in front of him, blocking his exit and palmed at his sleeve in a futile bid to wipe it clean.
It's fine. I'm all right.
I do despise these parties. They always make me restless. So much money changing hands, but not a scrap of honesty.
You sound like my youngest son. He never developed a taste for politics or high society.
You talk as though he got away from it all. Is there such an escape?
He moved north to become an Astrian monk, and from what I hear, he's flourishing, helping the local communities. Takes after his mother like that. I'm very proud.
There was a bitterness to his tone. He wasn't proud of his son that escaped his criminal bullshit. In fact, it seemed as though he felt slighted. He may as well have been talking through gritted teeth.
Your admiration of your family is a joyous thing. We all want what's best for our loved ones and community, but sometimes I wonder how one can go about making a real difference.
I run a number of businesses that stimulate the economy, and I find that those contributions benefit all quite generously.
Well, there must be more to it than that. I've only spoken to you briefly, yet you seem a man with connections and power. So, let's say you're meeting opposition on a dispute you need resolved. Where would you go to rectify that?
I just needed him to confirm that he was working with Helar and I could start digging.
It sounds like you're after a broker of some kind.
He was going to do it. He was going to confirm their connection.
If you believe that is what I seek, I welcome your advice.
He peeked around my shoulder, like he was checking for prying eyes, and gave a wicked smile.
I'll tell you what, since you seem to be so determined, I can introduce you to someone who can facilitate any arrangement you wish.
He gestured with an open palm to someone approaching from behind.
Might I introduce you to my dear friend, Ulysees Helar? There is nothing he cannot accomplish.
My breath failed to fill my lungs and all my muscles tensed. I couldn't bring myself to turn around. It couldn't be. Her voice piped up from behind. It crawled over my shoulders in a way that shifted the air and made my skin go cold.
I appreciate the introduction, Zaddicus. He's just the man I've been looking for.
Yep, you heard that right. I met the man himself quite soon into our endeavour to defeat him. But I shan't spoil any more. You're going to have to keep listening. Sorry to leave it on a cliffhanger, but try to get some rest despite the trepidations you may be feeling. You already know I got out of this one too. I always do, after all. The question is how. Rest well, adventurers. And good hunting. Calling All Adventures is a production of the Tower Array, written and directed by Gray Smith. The host, the Herald, Margrave Stonehammer, and the Rude Noble are played by Gray Smith. Valuin Emmaris is played by Ivy Smith. Lynn Ward is played by Caitlin Carlett. The Ceremonial Guard is played by Lauren Tucker. Morn is played by Ioana Adăscăliței. Harrington, Mulbrand, and Aard Kier are played by Carl Bonebright. Zaddicus Rosefist is played by Matthew Dalton. And Ulysees Helar is played by Koyama. You can find out more about the show at thetowerarray.com.